Hello, everybody. So thank you for joining us today. Obviously, you just watched the fantastic premiere episode of Good Trouble, which is coming to Freeform. It's actually streaming now, so you can tell your friends to go and watch it right now. I'm Danielle Turchiano. I'm senior features editor at Variety Magazine, and I'm thrilled to be here today. I covered The Fosters for a long time, and if you don't know, Good Trouble is technically a spinoff of The Fosters, which ran for 5 seasons on Freeform. So love to just bring out our lovely panel today. We're going to start with executive producer Peter Paige. We have Mariana Adams Foster herself, Cierra Ramirez. And we've got some of the new ensemble of Good Trouble, Tommy Martinez, Zuri Adele, and Sherry Cola.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, spending your Monday afternoon with us. We sure appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I mentioned, and as it seems like everybody knows, it is a spinoff of The Fosters, which means that we've had 5 years of history with characters like Mariana and like Callie, played by Maia Mitchell. So I want to start with you, Peter, when you were approaching this new show, what were you looking for from the new ensemble that all of these lovely actors got to bring for you?
So the thing that we as creators, me and Brad and Joanna, the thing that we're all really taken with, and the thing that sort of makes our work sing, is mess, is people who are into their mess and comfortable with their mess and engaged with being human and messy and imperfect and okay with that. And frankly, there's a whole bunch of really great actors who are not that. Who are not okay with that, who want you to see what they want to share with you as opposed to letting you into kind of all of who they are. And Maia and Cierra have always been super gifted at that, but after 5 years of doing it, they have it in spades. So we knew we had a really high bar for messy but lovable that we needed to achieve with everyone. And we just hunted and hunted until we found these amazing, amazing, gorgeous people. And I can't tell you enough. They are brilliantly talented, as you saw. They are beautiful physically. They are beautiful inside and out. The cast gelled like nothing you've ever seen. They're on a text chain, all of them, all the time, every day, all day. They're constantly like, "Who's shooting right now? What scene are you?" It's bananas. And I really think that all shows up on screen, even in the first episode. But as the series progresses, very, very quickly, you see a chemistry that to me is ranked right up there with Friends and shows like that, where the ensemble just sings.
It's a high bar you just set.
You watch us. You watch us.
But also from a character perspective, I mean, we had 5 years of an ensemble of very specific character, quote unquote, types. Were you actively looking for different, quote unquote, types?
No, I don't think we thought about it that way so much. I mean, we wanted to protect the heart and the ethos of the Fosters, but dress it up in a completely different clothing. And I'm proud to say I think we achieved that. And the question sort of became, and by the way, I'll tell you very quickly the story of how the spinoff happened. The executives at Freeform came to Warner Brothers, where we were shooting The Fosters, and took me and Brad and Joanna out to lunch and said, "Hey, so sorry, we're not bringing you back for season 6. And we were like, okay. And they said, "Have you thought about a spinoff?" And we said, not really. We were kind of counting on a season 6, but I don't know. Mariana and Callie moved to LA to start their adult lives. And literally, they said, "Sold, 13 on the air." Now, we left that meeting thinking we are really something. We left like, we got a spin-off, 13 on the air. And it wasn't until we finished The Fosters, which was in March, and we had to start photography on Good Trouble on June 11th.
Wow.
It's March, June 11th, that we looked at each other and realized we didn't know what the hell that show was. That's not a show. Mariana and Callie moved to LA. That's a sentence. And thank God we had 5 years and 104 episodes under our belts as a team. So we hunkered down very, very quickly and just started pitching and pitching and pitching and pitching. And it was much more about where, in a relationship drama, your only story engine is who your characters are. Right? I mean, Mariana and Callie both have jobs now, so that certainly helped giving us some drivers. But the rest of the story comes out of the humanity of these people. So that was the thing. So it was a long, long answer to your question. But the thing was, who are characters we're going to be interested in that we can follow and create stories about who they are at this point in their lives.
So, Cierra, when you heard that they sold the spinoff as that one sentence, were you automatically in? And what did you want to see from her, given that, you know, this is a slightly more mature character because it's years later?
Right. I mean, honestly, I grew up on the series, The Fosters, so it came as a shock to all of us that, because I was so sure about a season 6 as well. So I mean, it was a very bittersweet moment. I mean, and you know, to continue this legacy in a way with Maia and Peter and just my family that I love, I was automatically down. Of course, there was no other question about it. But you know, yeah, and kind of going into it too, we didn't know exactly what the show was going to be about, but we just trusted them so fully with our lives, and I'm just so ecstatic about it. I'm over the moon about where it's gone, and to kind of play Mariana, but in a new way, a new light, because it's so different. It's not like The Fosters at all, but it does have that same heart and soul that you know and love about it, and it's what I've always been so drawn to it about. So I'm really excited to continue to tell these stories, but in a new way.
Was there something, I mean, you also came aboard this version as an executive producer, so was there something that you went in and said to Peter and Brad and Joanna and said, this is what I want from her?
This one's a bitch on wheels as a producer. Let me tell you, she's all sweet now, but she came in.
It's a real Golden Globe.
I will. I'm totally. Mariana will have a scene where she is publicly humiliated in the lunchroom. Mariana will cry in a bathroom stall. No.
I mean, it gives you great meat for your you know. But in all seriousness, like what did you want from her at this point in her life?
I mean, honestly, I didn't really. I'm really excited to see her continue her love of coding and robotics. You always saw that as kind of a hobby, but I was really excited to hear that she continued to go to MIT with that, and just getting into that whole world too as well. I mean, there's not a lot of women in tech, so. And she's always kind of been that girl, all about girl power. So you'll see that quite a bit. I'm really excited about that storyline in general, just kind of fighting the patriarchy in a way, and kind of changing the culture at work, a workplace that's male driven. But yeah, it's all about kind of navigating your 20s and finding your family. That's one thing I've loved about it, is I find it's very parallel to The Fosters in that sense that it's a family that they've kind of created with the Coterie, that, you know, it's not necessarily bonded by DNA or blood, but it's their backbone, honestly, essentially. Like, you need that support in your 20s, kind of becoming this new person, and yeah, they have a new family.
And that's the great way to lead into you guys, because I mean, she didn't have to audition for the show. She's been Mariana.
She did, actually. We made her audition.
Well, I'm learning audition.
Yeah, no,
I actually read for Mariana. Yeah, I got the call back, but not past time.
You know, because we have 5 years of history with characters like that, we're just getting to know you guys. So tell us a little bit about what you knew at the audition stage. What was it that drew you into the character and the show? Let's just go down the line. We want to start with Tommy.
I think with me, I knew everything about just pretty much what you saw at the ending there. I knew that was established Hispanic Latino man trying to pursue his dream as an artist, but also have that side job to support that dream at the same time. And I saw myself so much in those shoes, because as many of us who are actors, we come out here with a dream to pursue just that. And at times you have to sacrifice the time that you could go into an audition. You have to sacrifice paying the bills and everything that you could possibly do. But yeah, I just related a lot to it. And with the whole bisexuality aspect, where I'm from, it's not something that I was ever really exposed to. I knew people from my high school that were gay, but they weren't exactly open about it. But bisexuality was something that, you know, that thought it was never opened up in my mind. And I've had experiences in my life with myself and other people as well, like seeing their story, and kind of the troubles that go into having that kind of life where it's not accepted, like where I grew up. And it just made me question a lot of things with my community, my family, And yeah, I just molded well with that character. When I read the description and went in for the first initial audition, it was the first time that I had left the room and I thought that I had put everything that I could into it. Because more times than not, I leave an audition and I'm always thinking, man, I could have done this, or I could have said this a certain way. And you just start running yourself crazy in your mind. But that was the first time that I walked out and I was like, I think I did everything that I possibly could there. And it just felt good.
Same. When I first read the script for the initial audition, I knew that this was an Untitled Foster spinoff. And I knew that Malika was very passionate about social justice and that she'd been living at the Coterie. And I really related to her passion for social justice and her passion about being a woman of African descent in her 20s and navigating feminism and navigating intersectionality as a Black woman. And I really related to her grind. In the audition script, she was working at this job. She was, talking to her friends about fighting for somebody's life and raising money for, awareness. And I could really relate to that. I could relate to that while I was working at my side job. While I was auditioning, I was on my way to, while I was working that side job, I was going to the audition, and then I was doing a play that night, and I just really related to the energy in Malika in terms of that grind and her passion about her identity. Yeah.
I think for me, same. We saw it was a Foster spinoff, and for me, when I read this was a first-generation Asian American girl who, was not out to her parents, I was just so mind-blown that this story was so specific and that this is something that someone wanted to tell and put on the screen. It really meant a lot, because a lot of the stuff I go out for is open ethnicity, or sometimes I'll go out for, a character whose last name is Gutierrez because they're just like, why not? We'll see her. You know what I mean?
Just ethnic, just
Right,
somebody
yeah.
ethnic.
And most of the time, honestly, they cast no one like me. They don't end up casting anyone Asian, So the fact that this was a specific character that they wanted and such a special story and, this POV, this experience, I never really saw growing up, in my 28 years. In my 22 years, I never saw a character like Alice on the screen, so it's extremely important. And, I don't want to bring numbers into this. We got to stay on brand. But only 8% of, the characters on screen are Asian American Pacific Islanders. So the fact that they specifically wrote Alice and she's this first generation Asian American, it was really touching, and it just felt like, no, I need this role. I have to be this role. This, I want to portray this character. So it's just such a blessing. And in terms of the spinoff, I do want to say that The Fosters was, of course, an established show. A lot of fans, over 5 seasons, and we never felt like outsiders. Me, Tommy, and Zuri, Liz, Maia, and Cierra, we're so blessed to have these two queens. Honestly, open arms, and once again, the group chat, which mostly consists of Peter Paige memes. But it's such a beautiful show to be a part of. Yeah.
And just to add to what you said, Cierra and Maia have such a strong bond in sisterhood that when we walked in, we all felt like such a family. I mean, there's just such a level, equal playing field for us to trust each other and do this work. And the same thing, when we walked into the audition room, same thing with Peter, Bradley, Joanna, they're a family. And they would play with us in the room. And this, I really relate to what Tommy said. When I left that room, I was like, I gave that everything I had, and they pulled it out of me, and they saw it in me to pull it out of me. And if that's not Malika, then that's not Malika. That's somebody else's Malika. But it wasn't Zuri, and
that was Malika.
They do. And that's what it's like on set. I mean, Maia and Cierra, and Peter, Bradley, and Joanna, they will pull all of that out of us. And so it was so refreshing to have an audition experience that was a taste of what our work experience was going to be. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit more because, first of all, that sounds very rare to me, and so I applaud all of you for creating that environment. But also just, the fact that you're saying it's so specific from the audition. How much room did you then find you had to dig deeper, to collaborate, to bring pieces of yourself beyond what was on the page?
So much. Yeah.
For me, I'm a stand-up and my background is mostly in comedy. So, and you guys haven't seen the side of Alice, but it will be, heart-wrenching and it gets deeper than, just the cutesy face, you know what I mean? But like in my audition, there was a scene where it was very emotional. So I had to cry. And I guess I'm just saying like, it was a side of me that I didn't even know I was capable of. You know what I mean? Which is so beautiful because as actors, we're always learning, always trying to, stretch our limits. So definitely being on Good Trouble, especially with amazing directors and people to work off of, I've completely just stepped into this new world, where now if I go into an audition room tomorrow, like I am a different person than I was before I auditioned for Alice. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just to speak a little bit from our side, sort of what happens. These guys all came in and they claimed it. It was like, the story is true. You'll see hundreds and hundreds of great actors, and there's just the one whose job it is. Doesn't mean the other ones aren't great actors. Doesn't mean they don't have a lot to offer. It's just when it's your time, when it's your spirit that is meant to come through that character, it's your job. Yeah. And so as soon as we knew we had them, it happens on a conscious level where you make some adjustments. For example, Alice was written as Korean. We changed her to Chinese because Sherry's Chinese. We didn't want to do that thing of like interchangeable Asian people. Like, you know what I mean? Right?
Glad that you did that.
Exactly.
Yes.
So there were some conscious things we do, but then there's also just this unconscious thing that happens. I was an actor for 5 years on a series, and I always describe the process of playing Emmett as throwing a ball back and forth with the writers, where they write you something, you go in, you act it. They hear it, and suddenly that changes them. It changes the writer. It changes the way you think about the character. It changes the voice in your head just a little bit. It works on you. You shape the ball a little differently, and you throw it back. And that is the process. We are vampires a little bit. We will suck amazing, beautiful, awful, messy things out of you. For our pleasure and delight, but it's also a really beautiful, really important thing in a show like this, where again your humanity is the everything.
So, in speaking to the fact that you come with that actor background, let's talk about a specific. Is there a specific that you want to bring up, or that one of you wants to bring up, where you pass that ball back and forth and really changed a piece of a character or a scene?
I'm old. I don't have that kind of memory. I'm sure there are lots of. Can you guys think of anything?
Well, I wouldn't say just one, but I know that on every single episode, I've had several moments where we have passed that ball back and forth, where the writer of the episode is on set and with the director, we'll be playing in between after like going over a scene real quick before we shoot. I'll say something like, well, I think I might say it this way, and I'll try it, and then. It's just they're so open to hearing how it would come through my voice, and then going back and like I'm open to hearing. Let's go back to how it was, and all of that.
That wasn't good.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Okay, Cierra, is this different from the Fosters, or is this pretty much the way that you guys worked on that show as well?
Story-wise, it feels completely different. It's a lot edgier and sexier. You can see that. But kind of going back to like this whole idea of family, like you can't really fake that. You can't fake chemistry and just the love that we all have for each other. Like it was an instant thing, just an instant bond. And it's kind of an ode to our amazing producers. It's weird. Everyone that comes through the doors, like, they're just such amazing people, like such amazing actors, but also just genuinely such good people that it makes the whole working situation and workplace just so fun to be in. And I think the magic really happens because of that.
I just want to toss back. It's not just because of us. It is partially because of us because we value that a lot. Like there were some great actors who came through our audition rooms where it was like, you're super talented. You're probably going to be a big giant star. I can smell the ego on you and you're not
Do you
getting
want
this
to
job.
name any of them?
No, I don't. I don't. But there were people who were politely excused
Right.
because it was like, we've got other amazing
Yeah.
people for this part and I'm not putting up with your bullshit. I can smell it already. Like, and to me, it is, you work so many hours together as a company and you're not curing cancer, so there's no reason it has to be hard. It has to be awful. There's no reason people need to be screaming. There's no reason that people need to be bent out of shape over nothing. Like we are the luckiest people alive. And that and so it's super important to me to protect that energy. But what I wanted to say is, Cierra, you and Maia just immediately set a tone. Here's an example of a story. Maia and Cierra are they're the two stars coming forward from the Fosters, where generally they would be numbers 1 and number 2 on the call sheet. That's generally the way it happens. And it's sort of a thing. It's sort of like, oh, I'm gonna be number 1 on a call sheet. It sort of gets a little bit of cognitive rock. And I called them one day and I said, hey, I think we should alphabetize the call sheet. And they said, why? But lovely, not at all, not defensive or anything. They just said, why? And I said, you're already executive producers. You're already the 2 characters who've been with us for 5 years. I said, I don't think anybody in this cast needs a reminder that you're special. And they literally both said, absolutely. Like they didn't even catch a breath. They were like, that's not the energy we want to put out at all. We want these people to feel like family from the moment they walk on set. And that's why the call sheet's alphabetized, because everybody has value.
And like going back to, sorry, I'm like screaming into this mic. Going back to, but the whole family essence that carries forward from the Fosters, I binge watched all 5 seasons throughout the whole audition process. And I fell in love with the show. And seeing Maia and Cierra and knowing that I was going to be working with them, we do family dinner scenes, like the Coterie dinners. Mm-hmm. And that to me was very, very intimidating at first. Like coming into this, also seeing these 2 beautiful, talented women that I'm going to be working with, I was scared. I was kind of nervous about it. Just like, well, I mean, it was like
she's a bitch on wheels. I told you.
Well, it was my first big opportunity, so like naturally, I just the nerves just kick in, and so I was thinking more and more about it because we'd spend hours on dinner scenes, multiple hours, and as soon as we sat at the table and we weren't even rolling, everybody was just like talking and chattering, and we just like instantly became this little family just from that day on. It was amazing.
You guys mentioned, Peter, you mentioned that the process was very fast from the yes, we want this show to the we have to start shooting. So what did that do for you guys when you're trying to find who your characters are? Did that add any extra pressure, or did that almost help in the sense because you're all in this together and you just have to do it?
My personal experience is that I felt so closely connected to the character that was the thing I was worried about the least.
Okay.
The big lesson was that for me, I went from 0 to 100 real quick, and there were so many things behind the scenes that I had to figure out quickly, in terms of what type of team I need, in terms of financing, in terms of like learning how to organize like my finances and being in that new level, and having health insurance, amen. Like all these things, what is that like, setting all that up, but then also going into like 16-hour days and not really having time to delegate and figure those things out. So those things, organizing, make sure my home was in order, my inner spiritual home, my physical home, getting all that lined up really quickly was like so that I could give of myself to this family of artists from a very full cup. That was my work, to make sure my cup was full in all parts of my life before we started filming. And also not being able to tell anyone because we were on an NDA until June 11th. So all of that. Yeah.
Why'd you do that to them? No.
Talk to PR. That's not my job.
No, I know. It was a real question. So, obviously we've seen a little taste of it in the premiere, just, the tonal changes, that there are some very serious things happening on the show. Just like the Fosters, we're diving into some very important political topics. And then there are also the lighter moments and the more fun and the relationships. Which of those things is the more fun aspect for you guys individually to play? Do you feel like you have a different process when you approach scenes that are relationship and fun versus really focused on something intense and serious?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because like the really heart-wrenching scenes, I definitely have to get in the zone and, listen to some Sarah Bareilles Gravity.
There you go.
And really dig deep on that breakup in 9th grade, to get those juices flowing, as opposed to the group scenes where it's, giggles and beer pong, the title of my memoir. It's a little looser because you're playing off everyone.
We don't actually play beer pong.
Yeah, there's
please
no beer
don't.
pong.
It's not an endorsement of drinking games on set. We don't do that.
Well, Mariana was
Yeah, I know, but
MIT.
still, we don't drink at work. I don't
Yeah,
want
we don't
anyone to think
drink.
we do.
None of us
You're
drink.
your part champ.
But yeah, definitely. For me, I definitely. There's two different, moods, for sure.
With me, I took classes at Ivana Chubuk's studio, and it helped me a lot with connecting with my past and the pain that I have inside, whether just from like experiences, not that like I'm still like just, I don't know, just hanging on to that pain, but thinking back on, say, times when I got screwed over in relationships, or I did the same thing early on in my life, and learning lessons like that, problems with my own father, and kind of diving or tapping into that kind of energy. And like how Zuri was saying, I see myself so much in this character that I just use my past and like trying to use emotional intelligence to tap into certain feelings like that. But yeah, I mean, I kind of lost my words there.
I think for me, I came from doing a lot of classical theater and a lot of theater training, and so I found that I had to work to get in the zone for the lighter group comedy things, so that I could just be present, not push too much, not perform for like a whole audience, thousands of rows away. That was my work to bring it down, and thank God Peter knew to like how to communicate with me, because he knew all of our backgrounds and like where to.
I was that actor, by the way. I was a
Yeah.
classically trained actor, and I had the same experience when I got on a
Yeah.
show. I was like, oh, I have a really firm belief that the only way to really learn how to act in front of a camera is to act in front of a camera. And class is like a sort of a facsimile of it, but it doesn't really get you there until every day you're showing up on a set, and there is this sort of Jedi mind trick of convincing yourself that nothing is going on around you when 100 people are standing in cargo shorts, are standing around staring at you.
It's true. Touching you,
coming up to you right seconds before you have to like,
your
and
mic
it's this,
pack.
and it's this, and it's okay, and then
action.
then the director is like, Sierra, don't fuck it up, and like, and they're like, there's all
it's
this
so true.
chaos, and it's like 2 inches to your left, 2 inches to your left, no, your other left, and then
And then it's like you're remembering your lines and all, all
and
these things.
So there's this unbelievable act of bravery that has to happen, where you just kind of go, here I am in this circumstances, and that's where brilliant on-camera acting happens. Is in the danger of, I'm not here to control this. I mean, that's the difference I think between stagecraft and on-camera craft. Is stagecraft, you spend weeks controlling it, figuring out how you're going to control it, and then you let go of a bunch of it.
Yeah.
But you're still really navigating it. On camera, you can think, you can prep, and you should do all of that. You should prepare your episode, but you just have to listen. And listening, quite honestly, for any human being is difficult. But for actors, it's everything. It's everything.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think something I really learned was I am enough. You know what I mean? Because with me having the comedy background, I'm very like Rubber Chicken. You know what I mean? Like Three Stooges. I need like a comedic button. But really, no, just be present in the scene and work off your, partner, and just be real. That's the thing. And it's like a very grounded, relatable, drama with, it's just, there's no need to perform. You know what I mean? Like, just be genuine and do the damn thing.
It always drives me crazy when people say, well, actors are all the best liars. And I'm like, no, good actors are the worst liars.
Yeah.
Good actors only tell the truth.
Yeah.
And that's,
True.
that's,
present.
I mean that truly and sincerely. And I assume most of you are actors out here. You know, that's the thing. It took me, by the way, a long time in my own career to learn to let go, to learn to trust that I was enough. And it wasn't until I did that I started working. And so I just, that's the thing I want to remind you is that, like, don't bend yourself into a pretzel shape to try to get a job, because the job's not a pretzel. Right? And if that job's not you, it's not your job, and that's okay.
That's okay.
And it's better to leave that room having left your humanity, who you are, the essence, the power of who you are in that room. Because I tell you, we remember people all the time. All the time we bring people back. It was like, who was that? Oh, who was that person? They're people from the Fosters who are on this show. They're one of the girls who read for Malika plays her best friend. Because we knew there was something there. Malika wasn't her job, but we knew there was something there we were excited about. And that's, it's scary and it's hard to do when you're like, you read the sides and it's like, he's a trucker, and I'm a trucker. Okay. And I would go in and try to act like a trucker, and I never got that job. And, no surprise. So it wasn't until I stopped trying to act like a trucker that I started to work.
I also think it's important just to, when you're auditioning, just to go in there, do the best that you can, leave it all in the room, because then once you get out and you start dwelling on the things that you should have done, whether you thought that you did bad or if you did good. Whenever I went back home after each step of auditioning for this, I don't like to talk about it because I feel like I'm just going to jinx it. So I go home and my roommates are like, what did you do? How did it go? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, shut up, I don't want to talk about it. Leave me alone. I'm just
Have you guys seen the viral video of Tommy finding out he got the job?
Oh my God.
It's everything.
I cried.
The cutest thing in the world. I know, I cried too. It's so
cried.
adorable.
It's on his
so
Instagram.
adorable. Look for it. It's really good.
I'm sorry, you said it's on Instagram?
Yeah, it's on Tommy's Instagram, him receiving the call. But to add to that, just as an actor, I feel like it is very easy to be discouraged when we don't get something, right? So, like, I feel like, after 30 no's, like, it's easy to be impatient and kind of question everything and stuff. But, I look back on something that I didn't book and I was so heartbroken about it. Then a couple weeks later, I booked Alice. I'm like, wait, no, this is what I'm meant to do. Thank goodness I didn't get that one. You know what I mean? So it's very much of like, everything does happen for a reason. I truly believe that. And just to not give up, because the right role is waiting for you. It's kind of like the Harry Potter, hat situation where it's like, something like that. Someone said that to me once.
It chooses you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So just keep doing it because we love it. That's the whole point. We love what we're doing. So just.
And that's what I've told myself several times, and my roommates and just other people who I've met who are also aspiring actors. And if the love is true and genuine, just like, don't give up. It's only a matter of time. It's going to happen at some point. If you give up, then you never know if that yes was just around the corner.
So this might be a dumb question now, but I was planning on asking it, so I'm going to ask it anyway. Sarah, did you find that you were giving any of these newer cast members advice as they came into a world that you knew so well?
No, I mean, they were pros from the second they and
It
if
seems
they
like it.
were,
That's why I'm like, this might be a dumb
yeah. And if I didn't even know how nervous they were. I'm like, this is the first time I'm hearing about it. I'm like,
Sweating right now. Are
my
you kidding?
I could hear it in my voice. Like,
I was soaked the first day. The first day of
Really?
production, not only was I working with Maia and Sierra at the same time, it was just the three of us. John M. Chu was directing.
Oh,
And so
yes.
I was like, every pore was, there was not a dry pore on my body. Title of my second book. But anyway, the point is, but little do you know, Sierra, we are silently learning from you all the time. Like, just brilliant. Every single time we watch an episode, we're just mind blown at how,
Thank
of
you
course,
so much.
we're our own worst critics, because I'll be like,
yeah.
oh my God, why did I move my mouth like that or something? And then Zuri will come up to me like, no, you are so subtle. You're like, but we just think we love each other so much, and we're so proud of each other's work. So yeah, we're always learning from you, Cierra, and each other.
By the way, that's another thing about these people that like that there can often be in a new cast this sense of like envy and who's gonna pop and who's and this cast doesn't have any of it. They'll call me after they see an episode or a piece of episode and they'll be like, wasn't Emma amazing in that one? And I'm like, you are classy people. You're really good, really classy people, and they
it's a big
understand that
supportive
like all the water lifts all boats. Good water lifts all boats.
All these quotes. I'm loving all of these quotes.
I'm full
Is
of
anyone
cliches.
writing these down?
To make a bumper sticker.
I mean, obviously, it goes back to the family vibe that you guys are creating, and we've talked a lot about that. But another big part of the show is just, how topical and political it gets. So was that, I mean, you've been doing this for a long time, but I mean, how much was that important to you to be able to take a job where not only did you relate to the character and have this great sense of family with the cast, but you're also saying something that matters?
Honestly, whenever I first started acting, or even like through all of the audition processes and the many no's that I got, I mean, I feel like anybody can book something that like, it could be an entertaining story, but to have like a lasting impact on something like that, it's something that I never knew I needed so much, coming from where I come from, who I was, the people that I was surrounded by, and how much change needs to happen. And this show is definitely going to do that.
Well, I mean, you remember, like, when you're an actor, if the doorbell rings, you answer. So it could be, step by step. That's all. Nobody even knows what show was, but like Step by Step was great.
Do not knock Step by Step.
I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking it.
I know.
But what I'm saying, it could be that. It could be a show that's not about anything really, and is delightful for its own reasons.
It has its own value and its own way.
But it is so you're just grateful to get through the door. Right. But what I learned on Queer as Folk for 5 years, and I think these guys are all learning right now, is that when it's about something. And when you can make it about something, and when you go home at night, you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm putting something good out into the world, and it makes, boy, does it make the get-ups easier, and the tears easier to cry, and I don't know.
It's definitely made me more aware of just taking on any other new roles just because of it. I mean, I think the thing that I love taking away from it at the end of the day is I love being a part of something that even just strikes up conversation. And I think they do it's such a beautiful way of educating through entertaining. And it's just rewarding at the end of the day if it just inspires people or spreads awareness or acceptance. And going on in the future, I'm definitely going to be a lot more aware of that. Just because I think, it's just everything. And it's something I think all of these stories need to be on the air and need to be told. So I'm just happy to be a part of it. I'm happy to be here.
We had a great audience question, which I've seen pop up on Twitter a lot, so I want to give you a chance to talk about it, the title of the show, and if that's inspired at all by John Lewis.
It was, in fact, inspired entirely by the John Lewis Club. Representative John Lewis, who marched on Selma with Martin Luther King, he famously tells a story that he said, I used to say to Martin all the time, hey buddy, it's time we go out and get in some good trouble. And when we were looking for, right, come on, I mean, it's such a beautiful thing, and it's such a beautiful notion, and it really is at the heart of this show, and it has this great sort of secondary entendre of that just you can go out for let's go out to the bars and get in some good trouble tonight. So and so that's what we loved about it, that it had a great, deep, rich political meaning, but also has a little bit of a fun, dirty 20-something cheeky vibe too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like especially today, I mean, in order to kind of make waves, that's the kind of storytelling you have to take on, right? You have to have something to say. You have to be furthering a conversation.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, my thing is always it's not any harder to write a story about something than to write a story about nothing.
True.
It's not.
My question was actually how topical you want to get in terms of specific things that we're seeing in the headlines.
We're not big ripped from the headlines people, despite the fact that sometimes it lines up that way. And on the Fosters, it freakishly lined up that way.
It was like they had a crystal ball.
It was crazy. We would write a story, and then
the
week the show was dropping, the thing would happen in real life. We were like, this is nuts. And it happened over and over again. Steph and Lena getting married the same day marriage was legal in California. It was just crazy, these coincidences that kept happening. But again, we're not driven by I read this article in a newspaper or this story. We are sometimes driven by I read this profile in a newspaper or in a magazine, or I heard this podcast about the way this person is navigating the world or the challenges in front of this group of people. That speaks to us all a lot. And, the writers' room we filled with a lot of young people because, quite frankly, Brad and Joanna and I are old as F, and we are. I mean, I'm not even being like, but like we're not in our early 20s, which is what this story is about. So we wanted real people.
Authentic.
There's a great example of that. One of our writers came in to meet with us. By the way, we were writing the pilot and staffing the room at the same time, which never happens. So we're staffing the room, we're designing the sets, we're casting the show, all while we're trying to write the first episode. And one of the writers came in, and she's a very East Side, Echo Park downtown girl. And we were just like, tell us a little about your life. And she was like, wow, this weekend I went to a sad girl party. And she said it like we would all obviously know what a sad girl party was. And we were like, what's a sad girl party? And she was like, well, like they put on sad music and you like cuddle or like dance naked. It's like that.
And you stole this and put it in an
and
episode.
we put it in the show. It's in the
You had to.
in the premiere.
It had to be where that was
and it's a real thing. A sad girl party is a real thing.
I want to go.
And right?
I did not know that. I
I
thought
want to
that
go
was
too.
all you.
I don't think I'm allowed though. I think my penis is problematic. But it's not the first time I've said that, unfortunately.
Today, right?
So again, it is not. We're not like that Law and Order thing of sort of
Right,
like ripped
right.
from the headlines. You know what case it is they're doing. We try to make sure everything's coming out of character, but for us, and I think for anyone who is marginalized in any way, the personal is political and the political is personal, and there's just no two ways about it. And this world we're living in right at this moment, that I don't think it's ever been more obviously true. I think it's always been equally true, but it's never been so clear how true it is. And that's what we're trying to put out in the world.
So coming from being an actor, now creating shows, do you have kind of a magic formula or advice for other actors who might want to do the same thing? May say like, you know what, I'm not getting the opportunities. I want to give myself the opportunities.
The magic formula, yes. Everyone write this down. No, it's going to be great.
He's got great advice.
Look, you're an artist. You have a way of looking at the world. The way you have of looking at the world is unique to you and is special to you. And that's what all of television is now. That's what all of TV is now. Besides what's on CBS, basically, that is what makes television now, is specific people telling specific stories about the way that they navigate the world. And that can't ever be taken away from you, and no one can replicate it. So if you're going to venture into that part of the thing, own your voice, own your experience, all of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, and put it down on paper and see what happens. I mean, by the way, it ain't like I finished Queer as Folk and I was like, I want to create a show, and boom, The Fosters was
Right.
there. It was I finished Queer in 2010. The Fosters went on. I finished Queer in 2005. Queer as Folk ended. So it was 7 years of writing pilots, writing movies, writing TV movies, none of which got made. There were a lot of no's, a lot of near misses, a lot of things that got super duper close that didn't happen. But like all these guys have said, like it was the right one waiting to happen. So, sure, no, truly. It doesn't matter how easy it looks from the outside. It wasn't. It was not easy. So there's a path. There's a path for you. It's just the only thing you have is the truth.
Well, you guys are all making it look very easy on this show. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you
thank
guys.
you all for joining us.
Thank you guys so much.
Again, the premiere is
a pleasure.
online already. So you can watch it again.
Yes. Tell your friends. Tweet about it if the spirit moves you.